welcome back to another video, and in this video we are going to be continuing on with our macOS development tutorial series with AppKit, and in this particular tutorial we are going to be taking a look at how we can create an NSTextField that is an actual text field, right, in AppKit. In the previous videos we took a look at how we can create NSTextFields and have them be just static text labels and labels that wrap their text. But now we're actually going to create a text field that you can type in and get the value from and all that kind of stuff. All right, so let's take a look at what we will end up building by the end of this video. So here's what we're going to be building. Here's the result, right? Here we have a text field that we can type in. We have a button that has the title of Show Text, and then we have a checkbox that with the title of Reverse Text, and then we have a label that will display the text directly from the text field if reverse text is not checked, or it will display the text from the text field reversed if the checkbox is checked. So right now you can see it shows Visual Studio Code in the label because our reverse text checkbox is not checked. So let's check the reverse text checkbox and say Show Text. Now you can see that the label is showing Visual Studio Code reversed. That is what we want to do by the end of this video. So let's go into Xcode and let's go and let's actually create our text field. Now, creating a text field that we can edit, like we had in our final result there, it's pretty simple. You just need to create an NSTextField object with an empty initializer. So we can say var text field equals NSTextField, like that. All right, and then you can see we also have our other user interface components. So we have our result label, we have our NS button, and then we have our checkbox. Now, the reason why I'm leaving the label with default text there is because if it's empty, it's just not going to show up. And you won't be able to set the string value to do anything with it or anything like that. So it has to have something. The label has to have something, right? So we have some default text for our label. Now inside of our view did load, I have a configure UI method called. And what we're doing inside of configure UI is we are enabling our programmatic constraints, which I've done already for us. So translates auto-resizing mask into constraints equals false for all of our user interface components. And then we're having them added to the view as a subview, which again, I've already done. And then we are setting up the constraints for our controls. So if we take a look at our final result, we can kind of see exactly how this is laid out. We have a text field and a button along the center of our window. However, the center of the button and the center of the text field are 10 pixels above the center of the main view in the view controller. And then the checkbox is is also 10 pixels away. The center of the checkbox is 10 pixels away from the center of our view on the y-axis. However, this is on the other side of our center. So we have about 20 pixels of padding between the text field and the button and the checkbox. So the center, right, the center of the view inside of our view controller is in between those two rows of controls. Now you can see the checkbox takes up its own row. The width of the checkbox is constrained to the center X anchor of our window, of our view. So it will always take up half of the window. All right. You could have it take up a third if you wanted to, all that stuff. All right. So now what we can do is we can also take a look at our label. And our label is beneath our checkbox. There's 20 units of padding between the label and the checkbox, and it is constrained, right? It is constrained to 20 pixels to 20 pixels of padding on both the leading and trailing edges of the view controller. So that is kind of how our layout is going to work there. And you can see that play out in the constraints that we've activated here, which again, I've done already. By this point, you should be able to enable constraints on your own. But if you can't, go ahead and review this code here. Or look up some documentation. But there are a couple things that I want to point out to you, and that is the trailing anchors specifically, as well as any negative numbers that you see. Now, the way that this is working is in our view controller, in our view controller's coordinate space. 0, 0 is at the top left of our view. Of any view's coordinate space, 0, 0 is always the top left corner. So, with that being said, when we have a leading anchor, for example, or a top anchor, those are going away from 0, 0. So, those are positive numbers. However, for bottom and trailing anchors, those go towards 0, 0. So those have to be negative numbers. All right, keep that in mind because that is very important. If you do not grasp that particular concept with constraints, you're going to get very confused very quickly. I've seen many questions on, for example, Stack Overflow or Reddit about that exact thing, just to find out that they made their constraints wrong. They didn't put negative values where they should have for their trailing and bottom anchors. All right. So let's now go ahead and we can run our code as is. So here we are. This is our app as we speak. With our current code, this is what it looks like. We have our text field, we have our button, our checkbox, and our label. But if we type something, let's say test, and we show text, it doesn't do anything because our our action doesn't have anything in it yet. So let's go ahead and put some stuff in our button action to make this work. Now, if we go down to the bottom here, you can see I have a function that goes and reverses the text that you give it. So you pass it a string, it reverses it, and then returns it in that reversed order. That's all this does. Now, inside of our showTextClicked method, we need to first determine whether or not the string value of our text field is empty. If it isn't, we don't want to. If it isn't empty, then we want to actually do something. If it is empty, we do not want to do anything at all, because if we do, it's we're wasting CPU cycles. All right, so we'll say if text field string value dot is empty. Okay, the string value dot is empty. All right. Now, this is basically telling us, this is basically saying, okay, is the string value, is the text that the text field contains, is that empty? And if it isn't empty, hence the not operator, we want to do something. Now, the next thing we're going to do is retrieve the state of our checkbox. Now, how exactly do we do this? Is there an isChecked property or something? No, there isn't. We need to access the state property of our checkbox, or NSButton as it's called, or as the object is technically called. This state has 3 values: on, off, and mixed. This is usually for checkboxes and for radio buttons, but we're dealing with just on and off for right now. We're not supporting a mixed state in our checkbox, so we don't have to worry about accommodating for a mixed state. So in here, we can say var, or rather, let's say let is checked equals, we'll say reverse check dot state equals dot on. Right? Because state is a property that is an enum type, where on is one of the constants. And so now, if this is true, if isChecked is true, we know that the checkbox is currently checked. If it's false, we know that it will be not checked. All right, so now we can say if is checked let's see. All right. Let's see. Let's something got screwed up. Something definitely got screwed up here. Okay. Let is checked equals reverse check. Okay, let's try that again. Let is checked equals reverse check dot state equals dot on. All right, cool. All right, so now that we have that all resolved, we can say if is checked so if our checkbox is checked, we want to make sure that we reverse the order of the text. So we'll say result label dot string value equals reverse string text field string value, like that. All right. And else we will say result label dot string value equals text field dot string value. All right. Now that we have that, let's go ahead and run our code. There we go. Let it do its thing. All right. So let's type some stuff in here. We'll say Xcode is an IDE for developing apps for Apple platforms, like that. All right. We'll show text. And so there is our non-reversed text in our label. Let's check reversed. Let's go ahead and check our reverse text checkbox and hit show text. And there we go. Now our text is being shown as being reversed. And that pretty much does it for how we can use a text field that you can actually go and type in and edit its contents and stuff like that using AppKit and interact with it using other controls. Now, before I go, I want to give you all a challenge. I want you to take into account changes to the checkbox state every time the checkbox is clicked. So what the challenge is you need to change the order of the characters in the label, as the state of the checkbox changes, without needing to click show text again. Now, this shouldn't happen. Nothing should happen if there is no text other than the default being displayed in the label. All right. So if the label is showing the default text that we give it, the reverse checkbox should not do anything. It shouldn't reverse that text either. It should only reverse any text that has been entered into the text field and that has been transferred from the text field to the label when the state changes. All right. Hopefully I explained what it should do well enough. If you have questions, please don't hesitate to leave a comment down below, and I can clarify if you need it. If you haven't already, leave a like, comment, and subscribe to show your support, as well as you can follow me on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, for more stuff from me. Thank you all so very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.